The night was quiet on the human space station, floating far above the blue planet Earth. The crew was tired and most of the lights were dim. Computers hummed softly, and the stars outside looked peaceful. But peace never lasts long in space. It always changes when something unknown arrives, and on this night something unknown was coming, something that would change everything. The first sign was not loud, it was not fire, and it was not war. It was a small signal, a thin whisper of sound. Picked up by the sensors, the machines blinked red, the screen flashed a line of code, and a young officer leaned forward. Rubbing his tired eyes, "Captain," he said slowly. "We have something, a signal, but it is strange." His voice trembled because he had never seen anything like this before, and he knew it was no ordinary radio call. The captain, a serious woman with sharp eyes, walked over to the console. She bent down, listened carefully, and then frowned. The sound was not human. Not static, not noise, it was patterned, alive, repeating, almost like a voice trying to speak across the stars. "Run a check," she ordered, her voice calm but heavy. "Make sure it's not from Earth. Make sure it's not one of ours." She knew deep inside that it was not from Earth. Her heart told her this was different, very different. The crew began to gather. One by one, drawn by the strange sound, some were curious, some were scared, and some whispered nervously about first contact, about aliens, about legends of other worlds. The youngest crew member whispered, "Do you think it's real?" And no one answered him because everyone felt the same thing, fear and wonder mixing together like fire and ice. Then the ship sensors picked up more. Not just sound, but movement. Something was approaching. Silent and fast, the radar showed a shape, long and smooth, not like any human craft. And the air in the control room turned heavy. Hearts began to race and sweat gathered on foreheads. The captain stood tall, her hands tight behind her back. "Ready all systems," she said firmly. "We are not alone tonight." The crew watched as the object grew closer, closer until finally, through the thick glass of the observation deck, they saw it. A ship, but not like theirs. It shimmered. It glowed faintly with colors that shifted like liquid light. Its surface moved like it was alive, breathing, changing. And the humans stood frozen, eyes wide, breath held, because this was first contact. This was the moment every story, every rumor had talked about. But none of them thought it would come so suddenly, so quietly. The alien ship slowed. It did not attack, it did not run. It drifted until it matched the station's orbit. Then it stopped, waiting, silent, watching, like a predator, or like a guest no one knew. The silence was worse than noise, worse than weapons, because silence meant mystery, and mystery meant danger. "Open a channel," the captain said, her voice steady, though her hands were tight. The officer obeyed, sending out a human greeting, first in English, then in other Earth languages, then in simple mathematical codes, hoping something would answer, hoping for peace, fearing for war, and then the sound changed, the signal grew louder, clearer, like a voice but not a human one. The crew leaned in, ears straining, trying to understand, and for one moment, they almost heard words from another world. But then it stopped, cut off, leaving only silence again, and the silence felt like a storm about to break. Without warning, the alien ship moved. A panel opened, light spilled out, bright and white, and a thin bridge of energy stretched across the void of space, connecting their ship to the human station. Like an invitation or a trap no one knew. The crew gasped, some stepped back, some stepped forward, torn between fear and curiosity. But all eyes turned to the captain. She stood tall, her face hard, her eyes cold. She had to decide. To accept the invitation or to reject it, she had to lead. "Prepare the airlock," she ordered, her voice ringing. "They are coming." The humans moved quickly, suiting up, arming themselves, checking equipment, because no one knew what would step through that bridge of light. No one knew if they would face monsters, machines, or something beyond imagination. Every heartbeat was loud, every breath sharp, and time slowed, waiting. The airlock hissed. Steam curled in the cold metal hallway, and the humans stared as the first alien stepped forward. Her skin glowed like silver touched by moonlight. Her eyes were wide and deep, filled with colors that shifted slowly, blue turning to green melting into gold. She was tall, elegant, her movement smooth, like water flowing through space. And behind her, more figures followed, each one different, yet all sharing the same strange beauty. The crew froze, their weapons trembling in their hands, but the captain lifted her arm and ordered quietly, "Hold fire, wait." Because what they saw was not an army, not monsters, but women. Alien women, graceful and calm, with faces almost human, yet too perfect, too flawless like statues carved from living light. Their hair shimmered like strands of crystal, moving softly as if touched by wind, even though there was no wind here, only metal walls and recycled air. The youngest crew member whispered, his voice shaking, "They're beautiful." And no one disagreed, though no one said it out loud, because beauty mixed with fear is dangerous. Beauty mixed with mystery is powerful, and everyone felt both at once, hearts beating fast, unable to look away. The aliens looked around slowly, studying the station, touching the walls, their fingers glowing faintly, leaving trails of light that faded after a second. One of them bent down to study the floor, another leaned close to a human, her glowing eyes scanning his face, not with hate, not with anger, but with curiosity, like a scientist looking at something new, like a queen studying a guest. Then the leader among them stepped forward, taller than the others, her eyes bright as burning stars, her voice soft but strong, a sound that seemed to echo in every human's chest. "Water," she said, her words broken heavy, but clear enough. "Show us water." The crew looked at one another, confused, surprised, because out of all the things aliens could ask for, energy, weapons, food, control, they asked for water, something humans took for granted, something simple everywhere on Earth, but rare in space. "They want water?" whispered the engineer, his voice half laughing, half afraid, and the captain nodded slowly, thinking, calculating, because nothing is simple when it comes from beings not of Earth. The aliens repeated, their voices soft, layered, almost like singing, "Water, water, water," and their glowing eyes fixed on the humans, waiting, demanding, but not in anger, in hunger, in need, as if this one word was the key to their survival, their reason for coming. The captain raised her chin, speaking carefully. "Follow us," she said, her voice steady, though her heart pounded. "We will show you." And she led them down the narrow halls of the station, her crew walking stiffly beside her, the aliens gliding silently behind, their glowing skin casting faint light on the walls, turning the dull metal into something strange, something alive. As they walked, the crew could not stop glancing back, stealing looks at the visitors, every step filled with tension, because these beings looked human, but they were not. They smiled, but their smiles felt too calm, too sharp, their eyes never blinked. Their beauty was unreal, and beauty unreal is often dangerous. Finally, they reached the crew's living quarters, the small space where humans rested, ate and cleaned themselves. The captain gestured toward a simple door. "Here," she said. "This is our water chamber, our shower." She tried to sound casual, but inside she was burning with questions. Why the shower? Why water? Why here? The aliens stepped forward, crowding near the door, their glowing hands touching it, their eyes bright. One of them whispered something in her own language, a sound like music, soft and haunting, and the others laughed lightly, a sound like bells ringing underwater. Then, without waiting for permission, they opened the door and entered. The humans followed carefully, weapons still closed, nerves still tight, and they watched as the aliens gathered around the shower, touching the controls, staring at the pipes, their glowing fingers tracing the metal as if it were sacred. Then one of them pressed the button, and the water rushed out, spraying, steaming, splashing against the floor. At last, the airlock door trembled, the bridge of light pulsed, and the first shadow moved inside, tall, graceful, strange. The humans raised their weapons, their nerves screaming, their hearts burning with fear and awe. The door hissed open, and through the mist stepped a figure not human but not beast, a figure that glowed softly, eyes shining, skin smooth, beautiful in a way that made every human freeze, caught between fear and fascination. The first alien had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The aliens gasped, their glowing eyes wide, their hands reaching into the falling stream, touching the drops like children discovering rain for the first time, laughing, smiling, their bodies glowing brighter as the water touched them, steam curling around them, turning the small chamber into a strange temple of mist and light. The humans stood in silence, unable to believe what they were seeing, because the aliens were not just curious. They were celebrating, dancing lightly under the spray, their voices soft and musical, their hair shining like liquid crystal in the steam, their movements slow and graceful, as if every drop of water was a treasure, as if this was not just cleaning but something holy, something powerful. One of the crew whispered, They're treating the shower like a gift," and the captain frowned, her sharp eyes narrowing because she saw more than joy. She saw purpose, she saw need, and she felt the weight of it. the danger hiding under the beauty. The leader of the aliens turned to face them, water dripping down her glowing skin, her eyes burning brighter now. "More," she said softly, her voice like thunder hidden under silk. "We need more." And the humans felt a chill, because they understood at last this was not simple curiosity. This was hunger, this was survival, and this was only the beginning. The crew exchanged nervous looks. The engineer's hands shook. The youngest officer bit his lip. The doctor whispered, "If they need water this much, what happens when they see Earth?" And no one answered him, because the question itself was too heavy, too dangerous, too close to truth. The aliens stood there, dripping, glowing, their smiles soft, their voices humming like a song from another world, and the humans knew they had stepped into something far greater than a shower, far greater than curiosity. They had stepped into a test, a mystery, and maybe a trap. And as the steam thickened, as the aliens laughed softly in the water, the captain whispered to herself, "This is not first contact with an enemy. This is first contact with desire." And desire, she knew, could be far more dangerous than war. The chamber was filled with steam. The soft hiss of water echoed against the metal walls, and the humans stood frozen at the door while the aliens moved inside like dancers on a stage, their glowing bodies shimmering brighter with every drop that touched them. The shower was no longer just a machine. It had become something strange, something alive, and the crew could not look away. The leader of the aliens raised her hands under the falling spray, her fingers spreading wide, catching the drops, and as the water hit her skin, strange patterns of light rippled across her body, flowing like living tattoos, glowing brighter with each second. The other aliens copied her, laughing softly, their voices musical, filling the chamber with a sound that made human hearts beat faster, both in fear and in wonder. The young officer whispered almost to himself, "It's like the water is waking them up," and the captain's eyes narrowed. She saw what he meant. This was not just curiosity. This was transformation. The steam carried more than heat. The air itself vibrated with a faint hum, a strange rhythm, and the station's sensors picked it up at once, alarms blinking on the captain's wrist screen. "Radiation spike," muttered the engineer, his voice sharp, but not harmful, at least not to us. "It's energy, unknown energy." The captain said nothing, her mind racing. The aliens had asked for water, not food, not weapons, not gold, not even technology, only water. And now under the human shower they glowed brighter, their bodies pulsing with strange light, their voices rising in a strange harmony, as if water was not just for cleaning but for survival. One of the aliens stepped out of the spray, her eyes glowing golden now, brighter than before. She turned to the humans, droplets sliding down her smooth skin, and she whispered one word in broken English. "Test." The word cut through the air like a blade. The humans stiffened. A test? Was this whole scene a ritual? A trial? Were the aliens measuring humanity's kindness? Or were they measuring something else, something darker? The doctor, a thin man with a quiet voice, whispered, "I think they are using the water to measure us, to see how we react, to see if we resist." The captain's jaw tightened. If it was a test, then the humans had already failed because they were terrified, divided, unsure whether to treat these beings as guests, enemies, or gods. The leader of the aliens stepped closer, her glowing eyes fixed on the captain. Steam curled around her face, giving her the look of a spirit, ancient and untouchable. She raised her hand slowly, not in threat but in invitation, and pressed her wet palm gently against the captain's chest. The humans gasped. The captain held her ground. She felt warmth, not burning, not pain, but a deep, strange warmth, as if her heart was being scanned, as if every beat was being read like a code. The alien's voice rang out soft but clear. "Strong, or weak, share, or hide." The room grew silent. The humans stared at their leader. It was a question, but also a challenge. The captain took a breath. "Humanity is not weak," she said firmly, her voice steady, though her chest still tingled from the touch. "We share, when it is right." The alien tilted her head, studying her, and then stepped back. Her glowing lips curved into the faintest smile, but her golden eyes still burned with mystery. She turned back to the shower, lifted her arms, and let the water fall once more, laughing softly as the patterns of light spread across her skin. But the humans noticed something new. The steam rising from the aliens was not normal. It shimmered with faint colors, forming strange shapes in the air, Symbols, circles, lines that shifted and vanished as quickly as they formed. The engineer whispered, "That's a language. They're writing with steam." The doctor nodded quickly. "Yes, a code. They are sending a message, but not to us, to each other." The crew exchanged nervous looks. The test was not just about water. It was about communication, about hidden signals, about something far bigger than a simple shower. Then suddenly one of the younger aliens stumbled. She fell against the wall, her glow flickering, her body shaking. The others rushed to her side, their musical voices rising in alarm. The humans stepped forward instinctively, but the leader raised her hand sharply, warning them to stay back. The young alien gasped, her glowing skin dimming, and for the first time the crew saw weakness. The leader whispered something to her in their own language, and then looked at the humans with eyes like burning suns. "More," she said firmly, almost angrily. "More water." The captain hesitated. The ship had limits. Water in space was precious. But if this was truly a test, denying them could mean danger. She looked at her crew. Fear, confusion, and awe were written on every face. Finally, she gave the order. "Give them more." The engineer adjusted the controls and the water poured harder, hotter, filling the chamber with thick steam, until the whole room looked like a storm cloud, glowing with alien light. The young alien lifted her head, her glow returning, her voice humming in relief. The humans exhaled, but their relief was short. Because in that moment the sensors screamed again. The energy spike doubled, then tripled. The aliens were not just enjoying the shower, they were feeding on it, drawing power, turning simple water into something unknown. The youngest officer whispered, trembling, "Captain, what if the shower is not the test? What if we are?" The captain's face hardened. She knew he was right. The aliens were watching every reaction, every choice, every fear. Humanity was being weighed on a scale far beyond its understanding, and the outcome of this test could decide the fate of Earth itself. The steam swirled, the lights pulsed, and the aliens sang softly in their strange language, glowing brighter than ever. The humans stood outside the chamber, watching, waiting, their hearts tight with fear, knowing the test was far from over. And somewhere deep in the silence of space, Earth itself seemed to hold its breath. The shower chamber was no longer a place for humans. It had transformed into something strange, something alive, something sacred to the aliens. Steam filled every corner, thick and heavy, glowing with faint colors that no human eye had ever seen before. The crew stood just outside the door, weapons tight in their hands, eyes wide with fear and wonder. The aliens moved slowly in the mist, their glowing bodies shimmering, their skin covered in patterns of light that shifted and flowed like rivers. Every drop of water that touched them released a faint hum like music from another world. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. The captain's wrist screen blinked red. The ship's sensors recorded everything, heat, pressure, energy, but none of it made sense. The numbers climbed higher and higher. The engineer shook his head, whispering, "This isn't water anymore. They're changing it. They're turning the steam into something else." The doctor leaned closer, his eyes narrow. "Look," he said quietly, pointing to the mist. "It's forming shapes." At first, the crew thought it was just their imagination, tricks of the light. But then they saw it clearly. The steam was not random. It twisted and curled into symbols, circles, lines, shapes that seemed alive, moving like words written in air. "They're communicating," the doctor whispered, his voice almost shaking. "The steam is a language." The youngest officer swallowed hard. But who are they talking to? Us or someone else? No one answered him. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hiss of water and the soft, haunting voices of the aliens. Their song echoed through the chamber, low and melodic like a choir singing underwater. It made the humans' skin crawl, yet it also pulled them closer like a rope of sound impossible to resist. The leader of the aliens stepped forward, her golden eyes burning brighter in the steam. She raised her hand slowly, and the mist around her formed into a single symbol, glowing faintly like fire drawn in smoke. The crew froze. The captain's heart pounded. The alien's voice came soft but clear. "Life," she said, her accent strange, her tone heavy. "Water is life." The humans exchanged nervous looks. It was true, on Earth water was life. But in her voice it did not sound like a fact. It sounded like a warning. Then, as if answering her, the steam shifted again. More symbols appeared, spiraling across the chamber walls, spreading like a map, glowing faintly before fading. The engineer's face turned pale. "That's Earth," he whispered. "Those are oceans, rivers, lakes." The captain's eyes widened. He was right. The steam was showing Earth, its seas, its rivers, its endless blue. The aliens weren't just testing water. They were showing that they knew. They knew about the oceans. They knew about the planet below. The crew stiffened. Fear cut through them like knives. If these aliens needed water this badly, if they worshipped it, what would they do when they saw Earth? The young alien who had nearly collapsed earlier let out a soft sigh. She stepped forward, her glow dimmer than the others. She looked at the humans with wide, almost pleading eyes. Her voice trembled as she spoke in broken words. "Help, or lose," the humans shivered. The meaning was unclear, but the fear was sharp. Help or lose. Share or be taken. The captain clenched her fists. She was a leader, but no training had prepared her for this. First contact was supposed to be about peace, about handshakes and treaties, not about alien rituals in a shower filled with glowing steam. Yet here they were, trapped in a moment that could decide the fate of billions. The leader of the aliens turned again. She stepped close, so close that the captain could see tiny sparks of light swirling inside her golden eyes. She whispered softly, almost like a lover, almost like a threat. "Strong or weak?" The words echoed in the captain's head. Strong or weak? Share or hide? Help or lose? This was the test, and humanity's answer would not be written on paper. It would be written in water. Then suddenly the steam thickened again, swirling fast, forming larger symbols, glowing brighter. The humans gasped. It was no longer Earth in the mist. It was something else, a planet, dry and cracked, covered in dust. Rivers were empty lines, oceans were nothing but scars, the doctor whispered. Their world. The crew stared, breathless. The message was clear now. These aliens had lost their home. They had lost their water, and now they looked at Earth not with curiosity but with hunger. The aliens began to sing louder, their voices weaving with the mist, their glowing bodies shining brighter. The chamber shook softly, vibrations running through the floor, through the walls, through the humans' bones. The young officer shouted nervously, "Captain, this isn't safe. We should stop them." "Wait," the captain snapped, holding up her hand. Her face was hard, her eyes sharp. She knew that stopping them now could mean war, but letting them continue could mean danger greater than war. The leader of the aliens stretched her arms wide. The steam around her exploded into light, filling the chamber with a storm of glowing mist. The humans raised their arms to shield their eyes, hearts pounding, and then they saw it, hidden in the storm, shapes not of Earth, not of their world, but ships. Alien ships, dozens, hundreds. The steam faded slowly, leaving silence behind. The alien stood calm, glowing faintly in the dripping water. The leader lowered her arms, her golden eyes locked on the humans. "Choose," she said simply. The word was like a blade, sharp and final. The humans stood frozen, every breath heavy, every thought screaming. The secrets in the steam had been revealed. The aliens were not just here for a shower. They were here for survival. And survival always comes with a cost. The captain's heart pounded. The choice had not been made yet, but it would come. And when it did, the future of Earth would hang on one simple truth. Water was no longer just water. It was power. The chamber was quiet now, but the silence was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The steam had settled. The glowing symbols had faded, but the humans could not forget what they had seen. Images of a dying world, rivers turned to dust, oceans gone forever. The aliens had shown them the truth, and that truth burned deeper than any weapon. The captain stood stiffly, her hands behind her back, her sharp eyes fixed on the aliens. They stood together, glowing faintly in the dripping water, their faces calm, their golden eyes filled with strange fire. They had not threatened. They had not attacked. Yet their presence felt heavier than a fleet of warships. The youngest officer licked his lips nervously, his voice trembling as he whispered, "Captain, what if they want Earth's oceans? What if they came to take them?" No one answered him, but the thought filled every mind. The Earth was full of water, endless seas, lakes, rivers, rain. To humans, water was common, ordinary. To these beings, it was treasure. It was survival. It was everything. The leader of the aliens stepped forward, her wet skin shimmering like silver in the dim light. She looked at the captain, her lips curving into the faintest smile. "Beautiful," she whispered, her voice soft, almost musical. "Your planet, blue, alive, so much water." Her words made the crew tense. They were not a question. They were admiration mixed with desire. The youngest officer felt his chest tighten, because in her glowing eyes he did not see peace. He saw hunger. Another alien stepped close, tilting her head as she studied the humans. "Can you live without water?" she asked in broken words, her voice like silk wrapping around steel. The engineer muttered under his breath, "No one can live without water." The alien tilted her head further, almost like a predator playing with prey. "Then the same," she whispered, and her glowing smile widened. The tension grew. The humans tightened their grip on their weapons. Their hearts pounded. But at the same time, something else stirred in them. These beings were not only powerful, they were beautiful. Too beautiful. The young officer's hands trembled not from fear, but from temptation. Their glowing skin, their crystal-like hair, their eyes that shifted like fire and water, it was impossible not to look. Impossible not to feel. And maybe that was the danger. The doctor whispered softly, "They are not just testing us with fear. They are testing us with desire." The words cut deep, because it was true. The aliens moved close, too close, their bodies shimmering with heat and steam. Their voices soft, almost teasing. They asked questions about Earth, about rain, about oceans. Every question was simple, but every question was heavy, dripping with meaning. One alien leaned close to the young officer, her eyes glowing blue now, her voice soft against his ear. "Rain, how does it feel?" He swallowed hard, his throat dry. "It falls from the sky," he whispered, "cold, endless, like the world is washing itself." The alien smiled faintly, her lips curving, her glowing hand brushing the wall as if she were imagining rain. Her touch left a faint trail of light. The captain stepped forward sharply, breaking the moment. "Enough," she said, her voice strong, her eyes sharp. She would not let her crew fall under this spell, not to beauty, not to temptation. But the leader of the aliens only smiled wider, her golden eyes locking on the captain. "You fear us?" she asked softly. The captain's jaw tightened. "I do not fear," she said. The alien leaned closer, her glowing face inches from the captain's. "You hide it well," she whispered. "But I see. Desire and fear are the same." The words struck like knives. The crew shifted uneasily. The tension in the room thickened, wrapping around every breath, every heartbeat. Then, without warning, the youngest alien, the one who had struggled before, stepped forward. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Share," she whispered, her glowing eyes looking not at the captain but at the entire crew. "Share water, and we share knowledge." The words hung in the air like a chain. The humans stiffened. A bargain. A temptation. The offer was simple yet dangerous. Share water, gain knowledge. Refuse and risk losing everything. The engineer muttered bitterly, "Knowledge or lies." But the young officer's eyes lit with hope. If they're telling the truth, imagine what they know. Imagine what they could give us. The captain's face was hard, her mind racing. Knowledge could change everything. Cures for diseases, power for ships, answers for science. But the price was water, the very lifeblood of Earth. The leader of the aliens stepped forward again, her golden eyes burning brighter. "We give stars," she whispered. "You give rivers." The humans shivered. The offer was not just temptation. It was a test, a trap, a door that could not be closed once opened. The captain said nothing. Her silence was heavy, her thoughts hidden. She knew one wrong choice could bring ruin, but she also knew hesitation could bring danger. The aliens stood waiting, glowing softly, their faces calm but their eyes sharp, watching every twitch, every breath, every flicker of desire in the human's eyes. The tension was unbearable. The crew felt torn apart, fear on one side, temptation on the other. And in that moment, every one of them realized the truth. First contact was not about war. Not yet. It was about temptation, about desire, about power dressed in beauty. And somewhere deep inside, the humans feared the same thing. That maybe, just maybe, they would give in. The chamber had grown quiet again, but the silence was not peaceful. It was heavy, pressing on every human chest like invisible weight. The aliens stood in the steam, glowing softly, their eyes fixed on the humans. They had spoken of sharing, they had spoken of water, but behind their calm smiles the captain felt a shadow. Something they were not saying. Something hidden. The captain folded her arms, her sharp gaze moving from one glowing face to another. "Why water?" she asked at last, her voice steady, her words sharp. "Why not food? Why not energy? Why not something else? Why water?" For a moment, the aliens did not answer. They only looked at each other, their glowing eyes shifting like firelight, their soft voices humming in a language the humans could not understand. Then the leader stepped forward. Her golden eyes burned brighter than the others. "Our world," she whispered, her broken words heavy, "was blue, like yours. Oceans, rivers, rain, all gone." The crew stiffened. The doctor frowned, his voice low. "Gone? How?" The alien's face darkened, the glow of her skin flickering. "We has burned it," she admitted. "Took too much. Fought too long. Rivers died. Sky died. Water. Lost." The humans exchanged tense looks. This was no story of fate. It was a warning. The aliens had destroyed their own world, drained it of life, and now they wandered the stars in search of what they had lost. The youngest officer's voice shook as he whispered, "They're refugees." But the engineer shook his head, his voice bitter. "Refugees? Orators? What if they didn't just lose their water? What if they consumed it, like a beast devours prey?" The tension in the chamber thickened. The aliens did not flinch at the words. They stood calm, silent, their glowing eyes unreadable. Then the youngest of the aliens, the one who had trembled before, stepped forward. Her voice was softer than the others, almost human in its weakness. "We wander," she said, her words halting. "World to world," asking, sometimes taking. The crew stiffened again. That one word, taking, hung in the air like a blade. The young officer swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Taking by force?" he asked quietly. The alien's glowing eyes dimmed, and she said nothing. Her silence was the answer. The captain's jaw tightened. She had known it. The temptation, the beauty, the tests, all of it hid the truth. These beings were desperate. Their home was dead, and Earth, with its endless oceans, was not just a curiosity. It was a prize. The leader of the aliens stepped closer, her golden eyes locking on the captain's. "You can choose," she whispered. "Share water, we share everything, knowledge, stars, power." The captain's heart pounded. The offer was sweet, too sweet. But behind the words, she heard the truth. Refusal meant danger. Refusal meant war. The doctor leaned close to her, whispering, "If their planet is gone, they may see Earth as the next one. They may take what they need no matter what we say." The engineer added bitterly, "And once they take, they won't stop." The young officer, however, shook his head. His voice was filled with hope. "But if we help them, if we share, maybe they'll be our allies. Maybe they'll save us from making the same mistake." The captain listened to all of them, her mind racing. The choice felt impossible. Share and risk giving them power over Earth. Refuse and risk a war humanity was not ready for. Then the aliens moved again. The steam shifted, forming new symbols in the air. This time it was not Earth, it was not their dead world. It was something else, ships, fleets, dozens of glowing shapes in the mist. The engineer's eyes widened. "Those are their ships." The captain's heart sank. It was true. These aliens were not a handful of wanderers. They were part of something larger, an entire fleet waiting somewhere in the darkness of space. The leader's voice came again, soft but sharp. "We are not alone. Many ships, many sisters, all need water." The humans froze. The truth was revealed at last. This was not just first contact. This was the beginning of a choice that could decide the fate of Earth. The captain's voice was steady, though her chest burned. "If we refuse?" she asked quietly. The alien's golden eyes flickered like fire. Her voice was still soft, but every human in the room felt the weight of it. "Then we take." The words fell like thunder. The crew stiffened. Weapons shifted in nervous hands. The young officer's face paled. The doctor's lips tightened. The engineer cursed under his breath. The aliens did not move. They stood calm, glowing, watching. The test was over. The mask of beauty was slipping. Their motives were revealed. The captain looked at her crew. She saw fear. She saw temptation. She saw doubt. But she also saw something else, resolve. Humanity was standing at the edge of something vast, something dangerous. The leader of the aliens stepped closer again, her voice soft, her golden eyes burning. "Choose. Share or lose, friend or prey." The chamber was silent except for the hiss of water dripping onto the floor. The humans stood frozen, their hearts heavy, their minds burning. The truth was clear now. The aliens had not come for curiosity. They had not come for peace. They had come because they were dying. And dying worlds make dangerous visitors. The captain clenched her fists. The moment of choice was coming. And with it, the future of Earth. The shower chamber dripped with silence. Water pooled on the floor. Steam curled against the ceiling, and the humans stood tense at the doorway, staring into the glowing eyes of the aliens. The truth was no longer hidden. Their world was gone, their fleets were waiting, and their hunger for water was endless. The test was finished, yet the danger had only begun. The captain's heart beat like a drum inside her chest. She looked at her crew, the engineer with clenched fists, the doctor's pale face, the young officer's wide eyes. Fear and hope burned together in them, tearing them apart. She turned her gaze back to the alien leader, standing tall in the mist, her golden eyes burning like suns. The alien's voice broke the silence, soft but heavy. Now, choose. The words echoed like thunder inside the human's ears. Share or lose, friend or prey. The captain took a slow breath. Her voice was steady, though her chest was heavy with doubt. What happens if we share? She asked. The alien leader tilted her head, her shimmering hair falling like liquid crystal. We give on stars, she whispered. Knowledge, medicine, power. We guide you. We protect you. The doctor's lips trembled. That could mean cures, discoveries, things we've dreamed of for centuries. His voice faded because even he knew there was a shadow behind the promise. The engineer growled under his breath. And what happens when they take more than we give? What happens when our oceans are empty? The alien leader turned her glowing eyes toward him, unblinking. Her voice was calm. We never stop needing. The words made the air colder than steel. Never stop. Endless need. Endless hunger. The young officer stepped forward suddenly, his voice breaking the silence. But maybe it doesn't have to be war. Maybe if we help them, they'll help us. Maybe we can learn from their mistakes. The captain's sharp eyes locked on him. He was young, hopeful, but too quick to trust. Yet a part of her wanted to believe him. A part of her wanted to imagine peace instead of blood. The alien stood quietly, watching, glowing in the steam. They looked patient, but the captain saw it in their eyes. Impatience beneath calm, desperation beneath beauty. Their fleets would not wait forever. The chamber shook lightly. The station's systems beeped warnings. The bridge of energy connecting the alien ship to the human station pulsed brighter, as if reminding everyone that time was short. The alien leader stepped closer to the captain, so close that steam curled between their faces. Her golden eyes burned deep, her words soft like silk. Water is life. You have oceans. We have none. Share, or we take. The captain did not move. She stared into the alien's eyes, her jaw tight, her heart pounding. She thought of Earth, the blue planet below, the rivers winding across continents, the endless seas that fed billions. Could she risk it all? Could she give even a drop to these glowing strangers? The silence stretched thick and endless. Every human held their breath. Finally, the captain spoke. Her voice was steady, but her words cut sharp. Earth will not be prey, the crew gasped softly. The aliens stood still, their glowing faces unreadable. The leader's eyes narrowed, burning like fire. For a long moment, no one moved. The chamber was filled only with steam, dripping water, and the sound of human hearts pounding like thunder. Then the alien leader smiled faintly, though her golden eyes were cold. Strong, she whispered. You are strong. The words were not anger. They were not praise. They were something else, a warning, a promise, maybe even respect. The alien stepped back slowly, their glowing bodies fading into the mist. One by one they turned, walking toward the bridge of light that connected back to their ship. The humans lowered their weapons, but their hearts stayed tight. Was it over? Or had it only begun? The leader was the last to leave. She paused in the doorway, her glowing eyes locking on the captain one final time. We return, she whispered. When oceans call us. Then she stepped into the light and the bridge collapsed behind them. The alien ship shimmered, glowing brighter, then drifted away into the darkness of space. The station was quiet again. Only steam lingered, fading slowly, leaving nothing behind but wet floors and heavy hearts. The young officer let out a shaky breath. Did we just save Earth? The engineer shook his head, his face grim. No, we just delayed them. The doctor's voice was soft, filled with both fear and awe. They'll come back. Maybe in peace, maybe in war, but they'll come. The captain stood tall, her sharp eyes fixed on the stars where the alien ship had vanished. She said nothing. Her silence was louder than words. Earth was still safe for now. But the truth was clear. The first contact was not war, but it was not peace either. It was a warning, a choice, a beginning. The captain turned, her voice steady at last. "Prepare a message," she ordered. "Earth must know. The oceans are no longer just ours." The crew nodded, moving quickly, but their hearts were heavy. They knew what she meant, because somewhere in the darkness of space, glowing fleets waited. Fleets filled with hunger, fleets filled with beauty and danger, fleets that would one day return. And when they did, Earth would have to choose again. The shower had been the first test. The steam had shown the truth. And the future of humanity now rested on a single fragile truth. Water was life, and life always comes with a price.